where does the buck stop? What is your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? When you define your why, everything becomes so crystal clear. Welcome to yet another episode of OMG, another podcast. How are you? I hope you're doing well. I am doing fantastic. I'm very happy to. It's always a privilege, actually, to record these sessions. And today we are talking about passion and hobbies. And do we have to monetize them? And what's the balance? And I was thinking about this because, obviously, of this platform specifically and other things that I love doing. But and especially just in the world that we live in right now, everything is being capitalized. You're trying to make a few bucks here and there. The cost of living has gone up and it's insane. And they're just trying to make a living, right? So I was thinking to myself, then how else can you turn something that you love doing into a business? And I think that's what a lot of us are doing, especially in the gig economy, the creator and the creative economy. And so with that said, I was just thinking to myself, what's the balance actually? At what point where does the buck stop? Where does the buck stop with yourself? Where does the buck stop with how can you make something into profit? And it got me thinking, especially with this platform. And it's something that I think I'm still grappling with. I'm trying to understand. So I did go for a workshop, especially for up and upcoming podcasters, courtesy of Spotify Africa, and it was an amazing session. Got to hear and learn a lot from Adele Onyango, the amazing brilliance and brains behind Legally Clueless Africa and just the many shows that she has around that. And I remember one thing that she told us, especially in the room as up and coming podcasters, creators, and she said that don't look at your podcast as just a hobby. So where did this come from? I remember when she was starting the session, one of the things that she asked us was, why? What's your why? So, people raised their hands, they gave their reasons as to, for example, one lady, brilliant, I think it's a brilliant idea. She has a crime style documentary podcast focused on Kenya, and I thought that was such a unique idea. And she said that that's not necessarily been done, so she wanted to explore that. Other people said, I'm a yapper, and everyone gives me that feedback that I have a great voice, and it's I want to have those conversations. And so from there why it's like, yeah, it's great that you're a yapper, it's great that you want to do all those things, but then you need to package your podcast and look at it as not just a hobby, especially if you want to monetize it, and look at it as a business. And that statement alone, or even just her asking that question, really got my brain churning and moving. And basically, you have to decide, especially when it comes to something that you're passionate about, are you going to make profit out of it? Is it going to be a profitable venture? Or is it going to be something that you just do for pleasure and for fun? And where do you stop? Because the structures and the commitment and the discipline that it takes for you to maintain something, especially that you're turning into a hobby, into something that is a profitable venture, is so different in terms of approach, in terms of strategy, in terms of how you think about it, compared to something that you're just doing for fun. And I know some people, though, who have been passionate about something and they were just having fun with it, and then they decided, what, I'm going to have fun with it, and then someone looks at it and they're like, oh, you actually have a strength in it with this, let me pay you. Like, for example, someone who they're always the MC at like a birthday party, an event, and then now that becomes a business. Now all of a sudden they're a corporate MC or a party MC, or like they're the hype master at a wedding, etc. And also, just even for this platform, the reason I started my why, I remember, like I said, if you go back to episode 1, is that I wanted a creative outlet. I wanted something new to challenge me. I wanted to share my conversations and basically what is in my head in diary form. And that's why even the structure of this podcast is that it's a diary style podcast. And then now it got me thinking, but it takes a lot of work. The team behind, like, it's not just me. I know it looks like, well, it's just me, but there are people who have brought this set together. There are people who are behind my social media. There are people who will help me brainstorm with ideas. Especially even when it comes to experiential stuff that we're going to be exploring, especially from next year, like events. Like, it's a lot that goes into it. And then the question asks, like, now the thing that, came to my mind is like, then, so what? Are you monetizing it? Is it something that you want to do as a hobby? Or is it something that you want to make a profitable venture out of? and what's the balance? So I think for me, the light bulb moment that came to me is that not everything has to be a something profitable, or you have to turn your hobby and your passion into something that makes you money. However, there are some hobbies and passions and things that you are passionate about that I believe they lead into your purpose, and they can bring you income, for example. And so, for example, I love books. I did a whole episode about it, and the kinds of books I'm reading, what they've taught me. But I remember speaking to someone yesterday, and they were telling me, but some of these hobbies and passions, they edify you. They pour into you so that you can be able to do other things. So, for example, reading books for me shows me different perspectives from people around the world, different experiences, or just even me, and it's like a mirror that reflecting back my own experiences and basically what I'm going through. And therefore, with that, it made me see that, okay, so I can just have a passion about, reading books, learning from that, and not necessarily make it into like another side hustle or a business. But I do know, for example, as the person who developed like our book club, it's something that she's doing, and now she's an influencer and she's paid for that, to do book reviews, to partner with bookstores, for example, and other partners around the book space around that. So I don't think basically there's a right or wrong answer on how to go about it. I think we also need to just have things that we do just because of the fun of doing them. If you love it, just love it for the sake of loving it. One of my friends, she loves cars, and that's just her thing. And she wants to go for a road trip and be on the road, but she's not making money out of it. But I do know another friend of mine. He is a car enthusiast. Shout out to Gear House, Kalasinga Brian, and he is making it into a venture. Like, it's a whole community, and he's built that around basically the community of people who are car enthusiasts and stuff. I'm not too sure about how he's making, he's not a millionaire necessarily in terms of that, but I do know that it's something that has been profitable, especially influencing in that space, being a thought leader in the car space in Kenya, etc, etc. So I believe we need to leave some things for our soul, things that are just there for us to edify us and to make us happy, just for the frivolous fun of it, and not necessarily make it into something that has to make you money. Because the moment you do that, and I've realized, even as much as I love yapping and having these sessions, it does take a lot of work. There's a lot of thinking behind it. I know I look like I just sit here and then I just talk, but there's a lot of preparation, there's a lot of prep in terms of like how an episode will go, like the flow of the episode, the structure, what are we talking about, what do I really want to say, is there a call to action, am I giving tips and advice, or am I just sharing, this is where I am and this is basically what I've learned so far. And the moment you tip that over, then now it becomes something that needs strategy, it needs structure, it needs like a proper thought through plan. And I remember even Adele during the session said, like, if you're like someone who is serious and you want to turn it into a business, you even need to have like a 5-year business plan. How are you scaling your podcast into a business? What other shows are you inputting into your podcast? What segments are you even inputting into your podcast, for example, so that even if you are trying to attract advertisers and you're approaching them, there are places that you can plug them in, and you say, for example, my intro, this is what we talk about in the first 5 minutes. This is a property in itself. So there's just a lot in terms of thinking about, by the time you decide to turn your passion into something that brings you money, you need to be ready to know that it's not just going to be fun and happy-go-lucky and doing whatever you want at the same, at that moment. There's going to be a lot of discipline involved. There's going to be a lot of consistency involved, and there's a lot of research and just trying new things, try and error, and not everything will stick. So I am of the opinion that yes, passions and hobbies can turn into a business, but I am also such a big believer of being in the whimsical, letting your passion and your hobby just be that, and not taking away the magic from it. And I don't know what it is that is for you, but for me, for example, my voice, I believe it's more than just a hobby, and the reason that I have this platform in the first place. But I think there's some things that I'm passionate about, like makeup and fashion, and I'm not too sure, and I'm not saying that it may never change, but I'm just saying for now it's just something that I love doing. I've not necessarily thought about how do I turn this into a profit, because life is hard. Life is unrelenting. Life can be brutal, and sometimes you just need something to plug into and make you happy. Sometimes you just want to bake for the joy of the smell of your baked goods in your house. Sometimes you just want to arrange flowers and that makes you happy, and not necessarily want to turn it into a floral arrangement or a floral business. Sometimes you just like being the MC at your friends' events, and you don't necessarily want to now be a corporate MC and be paid for it. And that's okay. And I don't think we should be guilt stripped into feeling like, oh, you're missing this opportunity, you're missing that opportunity. But here, the thing is, the call to action actually is to just reflect your why. And I will always go back to what Adele asked us that day in the room. What is your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? When you define your why, everything becomes so crystal clear. I'm doing this because I'm passionate about it, but I also can make it into a business. And it's something that I really believe in, and there's a vision. So now, therefore, the path is different. This is a passion that I have, but I just love it for the sake of it, just brings me joy. If money comes, cool, but if it doesn't, that's fine. It's just a hobby. It's something that I follow with a passion. And so that's something that I've actually learned, and I just wanted to share with you that you don't have to make a buck out of everything. There's different ways to make money, and if you feel like whatever you're passionate about and you have a hobby for, you can make money, go for it. Just know that it's going to take a lot of discipline, consistency, structure. But if you feel like you just want to have the joy of it, like, just don't let people's voices really into your head telling you that you're missing out on an opportunity, because you know you. So basically, always find your why. Make sure that you have something that makes you happy just for the sake of happiness. And I just hope that whatever it is, as you're figuring out your life, even as I'm saying this, and whenever I talk about these things, it also relates to me, that you find your joy, you find your ikigai, the things that bring you purpose, the things that bring you money, a source of income because we need to eat, but also the things that just fulfill your soul, just for the sake of the fact that you're doing them, and you find yourself attracted or just leaning towards those things. So yeah, passion versus hobby, it's always going to be an ongoing debate. For me, my stance is find your why and you will find your path. So let me know. Let me know if there's a hobby that you've turned into a business, if there's a passion that you've turned into a business. How did that go for you? Have you ever regretted turning your passion and your hobby into a business, and how did that go for you? Have you turned a hobby and passion into a business and thought, oh gosh, I wish I'd have done this earlier? And what those different experiences have been for you, so that can learn and just get a lot of more information on that. I feel like sharing is expanding our minds so that we can see where we are as a human collective, and it's just very important. But thank you so much always for being here. This is OMG Another Podcast. Make sure that you follow us on all our social media platforms. That is OMG Another Podcast. We are on Instagram, TikTok. You can find the full episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And of course, as always, I am at Herway Studios, my production partners. Please hit them up for any of your production needs. And until next time, thank you so much for being here. Mwah! We'll speak soon.